Learning to play the electric guitar has never been easier. These days we have so many cool things that we can use to learn how to play the instrument. Now, when I started playing, there was very limited resources. You either had to look online in the early 2000s for very rough around the edges guitar tabs, you had to train your own sense of listening to be able to work things out, or you had to go into the shop and buy official transcriptions or magazines. These days, we have so many different things that help us learn and improve. And in this video, we're going to be checking out one of my favorite newer educational tools, and that is the LED fret strips from the guys at Fret Zealot. So Fret Zealot is a company that provides educational materials for guitar players. There's an entire online course repository where you can learn songs, styles, scales, chords, everything you need to go from a beginner to an advanced player. But to accompany this, they have the LED strip system. Now, this is something you can fit to any guitar. It comes in two sizes. It comes in a 24 3/4 inch scale for anyone who's got a Gibson scale guitar, and there's a 25.5 inch version, which is what I've got in my hand today. So what this does is this fits to your guitar's fretboard with no actual sort of modification required. It literally just sticks on, and then it connects to a pack, which is also included in here, which then talks to an app on your phone via Bluetooth to make the LEDs light up corresponding to whatever you're learning. So let's open up the box and see what's inside, because there's quite a few cool things in this box. So first of all, the box itself is very nice. They've actually got the fretboard lights there, but as you open the box, as you actually take the inner sleeve out, those actually change because the undercard has that rainbow finish on it. So here we go. Inside the box, we have an instruction card. So this is obviously where you're going to get started. That's how you would download the app, by scanning the appropriate QR code for iOS or Android. There's just some installation tips and some basic principles on how to connect it to Bluetooth, and also the installation guide. This is very important. I am going to show you how to install it on this video as well. So I'm going to put that to one side. Then inside the box, we have the LED strips. So this is one big unit that is sticky backed, and that's going to go onto the fretboard of a guitar that I'm about to choose in a moment. So I'm going to take that out and put that to one side. We've also got a few other little things here. So Fret Zealot have kind of chosen to include quite a lot of extras and kind of goodies in this set as well, because that just helps. So we've got a bunch of Fret Zealot picks, and we have this thing, which I don't actually know what this is. This might be that's a phone holder, so that's very useful. So I can actually put that on my desk and put my smartphone in there while I'm using the app. That's a really cool little thing to add in there. They've also included a capo. Now, there is a reason for this. The capo is not just in there for you to have a capo. It's actually part of the installation, which we'll also go into in a moment. And that also has a pin there, or a kind of clasp, as it were, for getting out bridge pins on an acoustic. So that's also another useful tool. We also have a cable here. This is the charging cable for the kind of the brain of the unit. That's a USB cable. And then we have the brain itself. And I've just dropped a bit of it, which I'm assuming is quite important. So we've got the connecting cable. This is a small headphone jack size cable. This connects the LED strips to the brain. These little clips here that you're seeing me drop on the floor, these are to connect the brain to the capo. And then we've got the actual kind of master brain unit itself. This is what talks to the app and does all of the magic. So before I show you guys how to install the system on your guitar, I just want to let you know this is a sponsored video today. So the guys at Fret Zealot are paying me to make this video, and they have provided me with the LED strip system that I've already shown you on camera. As always, all the thoughts and opinions you're going to hear in the video are my own. All right, so the guitar I'm going to be using today is my Harley Benton Fusion 3. This is a really good guitar, and it's taken me a while to actually decide which guitar I want to put this on. And the reason I've gone for this guitar is because I actually use this one a lot when I'm filming course content. So if you're a subscriber to my guitar course, you've probably seen this guitar in quite a few of the videos. So I thought, well, seeing as this is kind of a guitar that I use for teaching purposes a lot, this kind of makes sense to retrofit Fret Zealot onto. So what I have to do first of all is I'm going to take the strings off. So I'm just going to click my fingers now, and then the strings will be gone. And just like that, the strings are gone. So I'm now going to install the LED strips onto this guitar. So this guitar is a 25.5-inch scale, which is why I got the 25.5-inch scale version of this. If you play something like a Les Paul or an SG, you're going to want to order the 24 3/4-inch scale version. If you have something like a baritone, for instance, I don't believe they have anything available at this point in time. That's not to say something won't happen in the future if there's a demand for it. But currently, the two options are 24 3/4, which is your Gibson scale, and then 25.5, which is your Fender scale. So this is the system. It is on sticky back plastic, like I said. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to double check that this is actually going to fit. Before I do anything else, I'm going to open it up and I'm just going to check against the fretboard. This is actually going to fit on the guitar. So the end with the socket, that little headphone jack, that is going to go at the headstock end because that's what's going to connect to the brain of this thing. So on the first fret, I'm going to have two of these, one of which is going to correspond to the open strings and one of which corresponds to the first fret. And then subsequently, every other one sits just behind each fret. It doesn't go all the way up the fretboard, it goes up to the 14th fret. So you can see there, that is pretty perfect fit actually. There is going to be some places where we may have like a slight gap between the fret and the LED strip, but that's okay. That doesn't really matter too much as long as it goes on there. So what you want to do is line this up so that the LEDs, and lining this up is very important. You want the LEDs to sit under where the string is going to be. So you don't want it to be too far down like this because then these LEDs are going to wrap over the bottom of the fretboard. We don't want that because that's not going to be much use. And likewise, we don't want it too far this way because the LEDs for the low E string are going to sit too much on this edge of the fretboard, which again, we don't want. So once we've measured it up, we're going to start at this end, right up at the first fret. So getting this first fret in place is probably the most important part. So I'm going to go and peel off some of the backing paper for just the first fret. So that's the first two LED strips here. And it's 3M adhesive as well, so it's pretty good. It's not going to fall off after a week. It's going to hold on to the guitar very well. So much so, in fact, I'm actually struggling to get the backing paper off. That's how good the adhesive is. Okay. So I'm just going to peel that, and I'm just going to fold it there, like that. I'm not going to rip the backing paper. I'm just going to put a little fold in it so it doesn't go anywhere. Now, I'm going to get this lined up. Okay, so we want... It is kind of fiddly because obviously this thing does move. So take your time when you're doing it. Don't worry, just go slow. So we want to line this up roughly at the point where the strings are going to be. So that's probably about there. And then my open strings would be there. I might have slightly messed that up already. But the good news is it does just peel off and come away if you do mess it up, like I am inevitably going to do in this video. Okay. Nope, that's still not quite there. Okay, I think that's about right. So when I said there might be a little gap, there is, in this instance, I do have a gap between the Fret Zealot LED strip and the first fret. That's okay. It's not going to affect how this thing works. It's still going to work in the same way. So in theory now, all the rest of that should be lined up. What I might do actually is I might stick this, I might actually take that off again and stick this against the first fret. And then the open string one slightly forward. That to me makes a little bit more sense. I am not very good at this. If you've watched any of my other guitar mod videos, you'll know that I tend to mess these things up on the first 7 or 8 attempts. So now I'm just going to take my time now and go up the fretboard and put the rest of them on. So I'm just going to do this 1 fret at a time. So it's the same principle. I'm just going to be peeling it back slightly like this. And then sticking it down against the fret, like so. So you're just going to see this get sped up now as I go through the rest of them, because you don't need to watch me do all of these at painstaking real speed. So let's fast forward right now. Okay, it's on. So now I need to put the side of this down. So you can see I've got this kind of raised side here. We don't want that obviously on the final thing. So if you want to see this in a lot more detail, there's also a video on the Fret Zealot website where they go over this as well. But this corner here, the highest fret, needs to be put down at a 90-degree angle. This is very important because this joint here being tightly sealed helps the rest of this kind of hold in place. So before you do that, just go over each fret and make sure that everything is kind of in place. I think I've slightly run over the edge of the fretboard in some places, but not too bad. Now I'm going to get this corner and get a good... Notice I was just kind of squeezing on the side there. I've got a good solid 90-degree fix on that corner. Now I'm going to do the same thing, just going up the fretboard, gently applying pressure to get that side bit to stick. Because this side bit here that you can't see at the moment has LEDs that correspond to the fret numbers as well. And also there's fret markers on there to replace the fret markers that we're kind of covering with this strip of adhesive tape. So getting this to sit right is also very important. Now, the first thing you will notice is as you install this system, you're going to notice that it's there under your fingers. You are going to feel, because there are raised parts because of the LEDs. So it's not going to feel as smooth as your guitar neck normally is. So what I would say, speaking just from my kind of opinion on this, is if you have multiple guitars and you're learning to play, put this on the one that you're probably not going to want to gig with. Purely because it can be removed. Obviously, it doesn't cause any long-term structural changes to the instrument. But if you take this off, because it's kind of adhesive backed, you're probably not going to get it back on the same way. So install this on maybe your second guitar. So there you go. You can see now what I mean. You can see the LED strips there all the way up the side of the guitar. So these are kind of raised, but you can see there are fret markers. You won't notice it too much. It's not terribly bumpy, but it is there. So that's how the Fret Zealot system looks when it's installed. So like I said, you can see there's a gap there between the nut and the first marker. All the rest of the markers are pretty much up to the fret as they should be. And then we're not really overhanging the bottom at all. So now we need to install the brain. So that is this box here. And what this does is this talks to the mobile app via Bluetooth. And that is where these little clips and the included capo come in handy. So they recommend keeping the charger port and the on and off switch facing the floor. So that means this here on the front of this, you can just see it there on the camera, is where I'm connecting to the LED strips. That should be facing the back of my fretboard. So basically this sticker here, that is the top of my headstock. That is towards my frets, but it's going on the back of the headstock. So on here, there are two little holes. Those holes line up with two holes on top of the capo. So what I'm going to do here, and this is really cool because this allows you to fit this system to any guitar. is I'm going to line this up like that. So the capo, I'm going to be putting on the headstock like this, or whichever way. I could put it upside down on this one because it's a sort of a 6 in a line headstock, but I'm just going to put it at the top for the purpose of this. So I want those holes here on the back facing down. So my unit is going to sit behind the headstock like this. So it's going to be a big black box there behind my tuners. Now the good thing is I can take this off at any point as well. So this allows me to, if I have multiple of these fretboard systems, which you can buy from their website, you can actually have a Fret Zealot set up on multiple guitars, which is very cool. So line those holes up with the capo, and this then will just screw into place. And then I can just clip it on the back and plug it in. So if you want to buy one of these yourself, I have a link in the description that you can use, which allows you to get some discount on there. So if you scroll down and hit that link, you can buy your own Fret Zealot system at a reduced price. It is an affiliate link, so I do get a small kickback from the brand for that as well, but that doesn't cost you guys any extra. In fact, you actually save money because you actually get it a little bit cheaper. And that means if you get one of these big systems with the brain, you could get a couple of the LED strips and install it on multiple guitars if you wanted to. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like once it's on. So it's basically a capo with a black box attached to it. So on this guitar, I've actually got the tuners facing, the ports, sorry, facing towards the back of the headstock because of the way I'm going to install it on this. But you'll see from the Fret Zealot website, there's a ton of different ways to install this. So for me, it's going to clip on here like this. And then we have the box on the rear of the headstock. So now I'm just going to turn the guitar around just so I can fit it onto the desk. And I'm going to have to move my camera here a second, just so I can show you guys exactly what I'm doing next. Now, I'm going to install the cable. So on the back of this bit here that comes off the fretboard, we have an adhesive clip. So what I can do is I can put it there. I can adhese that to the back of my headstock. I'll say stick it to the back of the headstock is probably the safest way. So I'm just going to check first of all, I'm going to plug it in and check that I've got enough cable, which I do. So I'm going to stick it probably there. That seems like a pretty good place to stick that. So that's going to go right there. That's plugged in and that's installed. So now I have the Fret Zealot system installed on my Harley Benton. So we've got the LED fret markers, the side markers, and then the brain installed at the top with all the relevant cabling. So I'm now going to put some new strings on this thing, tune it up, and then we'll come right back here and I'll plug it in and show you guys how it works. All right, so the guitar is strung up, tuned up, and ready to go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on Fret Zealot just to make sure everything works. So when I flip the switch, what we should see is the fretboard should light up and it should run like a kind of loading kind of scene. So there we go. We have lights. So as you can see, it's just doing its thing at the moment. It's just running a cycle of lights as it's loading up. So first impressions under the fingers. I've been playing a little bit off camera and it feels pretty good. You can't really feel the LEDs on the fretboard that much actually. I thought you might have felt them when you were doing string bends or something, but actually it's pretty smooth. You don't really notice them. Where you do notice them is on the side. So if you can kind of ignore that, then this is a really simple way to learn. So I'm going to open up the app now and we're going to connect the unit first of all. So while that's loading, I am using obviously the Harley Benton Fusion 3. That's plugged into the Blackstar Studio 10 6L6, which is going via the 2-Notes Torpedo Captor X as always. If I need some drive later on, I'll kick on the Kernum Ridge because that's currently the overdrive I've got plugged in. Right, so we're in the app now. So first of all, I need to connect the unit. So I'm going to come to my settings and we have Fret Zealot device. Mine currently says connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into here and I was hoping it was going to let me disconnect the device. but apparently it's not. So, okay, right, there we go. We got connect now. So when you come into the app for the first time, you'll have to obviously set it up. When you first load the app, it pushes you through a kind of like a setup wizard, but I skipped that. Mine is now auto connecting, but when that was saying connect now, you would click that button and that would show you how to connect this properly. So we have 6-string guitar, because that's obviously what I'm using. Bass and ukulele, 4 strings. I'm not using either of those, so I can ignore that. You pick your strumming hand preference. So I'm right-handed, so I've got right hand selected. Then we've also got options here for if I'm using a capo. So if I was putting a capo on to learn some stuff, I would change that accordingly, because what that will do is it will tell the Fret Zealot where the position 0 is. The current tuning is standard. So there is a tuner built in here as well. So if I needed to tune, I could tune. And I've got a couple of different options there for different tunings and everything else. Mine is currently still connecting and disconnecting. Default LED color. We have like default colors for each finger. So we can change all that stuff as well if we need to. And the brightness is currently set to high. So when you first open up the app, you end up on this courses screen. Now, what I want to show you first of all is the tools screen. So in here, we have some different things that you can use to practice. So chords, notes and scales, tuner, metronome, Lightshow, and partner apps, which is just some third-party stuff. So if you're a new guitar player, you're probably going to want to learn some chords. So when you first come into the chords, it will give you an option for what fingers we're going to be using here. So the blue is my index finger, green is my middle finger, yellow is my third finger, and pink is my little finger. And then red is going to be don't play this string. So you can change your own custom colors if you want as well. So at the top here, we've got the chord name. So obviously that's where we can just cycle through the letters. So I'm just going to leave that on C. We've got major, minor, seventh, major seventh, tons of different versions. I'm just going to stick to major for now. And we have the voicing, and obviously there's 128 different voicings, but we'll just stick to number 1 for now. Now you can see in just doing that, my fretboard is instantly lit up. So there's a lot of red dots here along my low E string, which means I shouldn't play that string. And then I've got some lights on the fretboard. So I've actually got positions here for my fingers. So if you remember those colors we talked about, index is blue, middle is green, third is that yellowy orange color. And then I've got this kind of white pinkish light for open strings. So if I put my fingers in that position and strum, I should have a C major chord. Sounds like a C major to me. So if I wanted to go to, let's say, voicing number 97, you see it automatically reconfigured there. And it's given me a completely different fretboard position. So now my chord is a bit of a stretch, but it's this. I mean, obviously, that's quite a more of an extreme voicing. I mean, we have 128 voicings of each chord. Probably not going to need all of those, but you can see just cycling that, it just gives me so many different options. Here's another C major voicing. So that's really cool. That really unlocks a lot of the fretboard for new players. So if I wanted to go to minor, it will instantly show me how to play a minor chord. So now we've gone into bar chord territory. So you can see these 2 blue LEDs on the same fret to signify a bar. That's my C minor bar. If I wanted to learn 7th chords, that's going to show me a C7. There's so many different options in here, which is really cool. You've got some quite complex ones, like you've got obviously your minor major 7s, you've got your 7/4, that's just up here. You've got your 9 sharp 5 chords. Those again, obviously, that's quite a stretch. I'm not even going to try that one on camera. Your 7th with a flat 9 in there. There's so many different chord variations in here. Probably not all of these you'll need if you're a new player. You're probably going to be sticking to just kind of the main few, but you get the idea of how many different variations are in here. And then if you want to change note, you just simply scroll here. So if I wanted to learn a G major chord, there's my G major chord. If I wanted to go to voicing 2, there's a different variation. You can see the fretboard changes depending on which voicing I'm choosing, and there's all these different combinations of colors and lights depending on which chord voicing I actually choose. So it's great for chord learning. Then we've got notes and scales. So this is where we can kind of learn the fretboard really. So we have notes, so we can look at, let's stick with C again. So this is now going to show me where all my C notes are. Now these are color coded according to this key here. So we've got different octaves. So where we have colors that are the same, they're the same pitch. So for instance, this C note here is the same as this C note here, which is shown by the color LED. Likewise, these two are the same. Those two are the same. It's all the color coding there. Then we have scales. So if I wanted to learn the C major scale, now this looks a little bit more complicated because the fretboard now is really lit up. But what you're seeing there is all of the notes of the C major scale lit up for you. Now here we can set different colors for each interval of the scale as well. That's incredibly useful if you're learning about targeting notes and targeting intervals on the guitar. Anywhere you see a red LED, that's a root note. So that is probably the most important one to remember here. So anywhere you see red is your, so that's a root. There's one there, there, there. And then if we go into other scale shapes, there are different C notes all over the fretboard. What I can then do is I can have vertical scales and I can choose what fret number to start on. So let's say I just want my C major scale from the 8th fret. That's just going to show me this variation. So this is like a 3 note per string. There's a duplicate note there. So you do have to use your own judgment when you're playing this. Or I can go horizontal and then on a string. So let's say the D string. That's all the notes of the C major scale on one string lit up now. Or I could change that to the high E string. I can add strings as well, you see, so I can take the D away and add just the high E. Or I can add the E and the B string together, so I can see box patterns here inside the C major scale. This also then has all of the different scales that you would want. So we've got major pentatonic, that shows us my C major pentatonic. We've got natural minor, which is the Aeolian mode. We've got harmonic minor. We've got all the modes. We've got the Locrian mode, the Phrygian mode, everything you could really need. The Phrygian dominant mode, the ball and knees scale. There's all sorts of different scales. The diminished scale, the Kumoi scale, the Japanese scale. The Spanish 8-tone scale, probably scales that you've never even thought you might ever need to use. The Hungarian minor, the whole tone scale, chromatic, that's just going to give you like a block of notes there because that's what chromatic is. Tons of stuff. So obviously we've also got minor pentatonic, everyone's favorite. I like that it shows you variations on the same note, but I think that can be slightly confusing sometimes because as a beginner, you may want to trace the scale there as the lights are showing you. But you end up with that duplicate note in there. So maybe an option to turn off duplicate notes would be cool, but it's not the end of the world. It's cool that it shows you where those same notes are, but just from a scale perspective, that tends to be the shape people learn minor pentatonic rather than this. What would also be useful is if you had the ability to choose shape rather than fret, because if I want to go to the second shape, I need to know that it starts from the 11th fret. So I need to do that, and then it gives me my second shape. But that shape is now slightly incomplete because there should be a note here. So if I go back to 10, now I have my second shape. So you do need to know a little bit about the fretboard when you're doing that, just because, but then obviously we can change keys. So if I want to know A minor pentatonic, there it is. I know then that my A is my 5th fret, and sorry, let's change that one. I changed the wrong one. This is my A minor pentatonic. So you can see that's a really useful tool. We've gone over the tuner, the metronome. That's obviously just so you can practice with a metronome. That's very useful. Lightshow. This is just for fun. We could have random. That's just going to do a bunch of cool stuff to your fretboard. Rainbow. That's going to give us like a sort of cycling rainbow effect. Sparkler. Each light is kind of shimmering slightly there. Fast wave. These are really just for fun. Rainfall. Double helix. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that's just a bit of fun there. Inside the chord menu, I also forgot to add, let's say I'm learning a C major chord. What I can also do is press this button at the bottom, and that will show me the arpeggios. So now I have the C major arpeggios all over the guitar. So whether I'm learning like that, or whether I'm learning kind of encased arpeggios. If you're going up towards sweep picking, you can do that as well. So that is that section. We also have courses. Inside the courses, we have a bunch of cool stuff like player study courses. So we've got like an Angus Young course there, for instance. You've got stuff like Unlocking Caged for major and minor. You've got Total Beginner Guitar Course, level 1. So if you click that and you go in, you can see there's 16 lessons there, 1 hour and 25 minutes. And you can then go through that course, and that will sync up with your Fret Zealot. So if I wanted to go into that, let's say I'm just going to skip ahead to finger exercises. And then that's still gone into landscape now for the purpose. Then I click play, and that's going to play my lesson. And obviously I can go forward in the lesson. And what this will do
in the first fret of the
is it will show me this content. And then you can see here now, for instance, my first fret is lit up because that's what he's talking about in the video. So the lights on the Fret Zealot will go according to...
And then we go forward, 1, 2, 3, 4.
The video.
And that's the sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, bump up.
So anywhere that...
Bump up. 1, 2, 3, 4, bump up.
Let me just get out of this. Anywhere the video is telling you to play, the Fret Zealot will talk to it as well. So that's really, really useful. Then the other thing you can do inside of here, you could go to like a player study, for instance. This is for intermediate players. So an Angus Young player introduction. Let's say we're going to learn, what have we got here? Licks 1 and 2 from this. So even though I know my phone is switching orientation here, I am just going to play this and find a part where there's a lick. And then we'll see how the Fret Zealot reacts while that's playing. Okay, so he's playing something now. So what we should see when I hit play is the Fret Zealot doing what he's doing on camera.
Remembering where our root note is, which is of course here, as you've been practicing.
So you can see that's lit up the area of the guitar now.
Sliding in from the flat 7 to the root.
You can see how that actually told me where to play there. So that is very, very cool. We also have songs. Now this is a huge library of stuff. They have, I can't remember the exact number, but it's in the tens of thousands of songs. So if you wanted to learn a song, so let's say I wanted to learn an Aerosmith song, and I wanted to learn the riff for, I mean, you can see just how many there are on here, just by me scrolling Aerosmith alone. Let's say I wanted to learn the riff from the song Walk This Way. That's now going to go into landscape mode again, and it's got a guitar tab. Now what will happen is when I click play, the Fret Zealot is going to light up according to the tab. So it's going to count you in. So that is incredibly cool. So I could learn a guitar riff from that alone. So I'm actually going to switch on my overdrive and I'm going to play along with this. So let's go. So you can see how that actually turned into a chord there at the end as well. That is such a useful thing. There are different versions, so obviously we can go through different versions of the song as well, and each one, oops, I didn't mean to go back there. Each one has been rated as well, so you can see there's different ratings. We also have this AI mode, which is very cool, because what this will do is this will listen to you playing. So if I was to play that note, you see it moves forward there because I did actually play the correct note. But if I now play 1, 3 instead of 1, 2, you can see the fret zealot's lit up on fret 1. No matter how much I play that note, it's not going to move on to the next bit. If I play the right note, it then moves on. So it actually listens to you playing as well and actually shows you real-time feedback. So if you're playing a wrong note, the Fret Zealot will not let you continue, which is really cool. Inside the normal playback, we can also change the speed as well, so we can slow things down or speed them up. We can loop sections, and then there's also options here where we can look at the bass part, for instance. The AI mode isn't going to work here because I've got the guitar set up, but obviously if I was doing this on a bass, I could do the same thing, or I could just view the guitar track. Incredibly useful. The song library is absolutely massive. I mean, I literally just showed you something from the letter A there, but you can see just by me scrolling how vast this is. So it's the sort of thing you can either sit there and, you know, really just scroll and see what takes your fancy, or you can kind of come into this with an idea of what you want. There's a lot. In fact, pretty much every major artist is in there, but there's also a lot of more niche artists as well. So if you're into some more obscure music, you'll probably find that in there as well, which is very fun. There's even like cartoon themes. There are different sections for soundtracks. I mean, obviously I'm just clicking one there, but there's probably other ones in there somewhere. There's so much stuff in here. This is listed by artist, and you can save your favorites as well. So if I wanted to learn something by one of my favorite bands, Mr. Big, and I wanted to learn the song Colorado Bulldog, which I know is a song that I cannot play. The song is in a different tuning. I didn't know it was in a different tuning. I just assumed it was in standard tuning. What that's going to do now is it's going to show me the absolutely insane guitar intro on the fretboard. I know I can't play this, but I'm going to show you what the fretboard looks like. So you'll just see a bunch of lights here flying by. Now the only limitation is this song, that riff actually extends beyond the 14th fret, and obviously Fret Zealot only goes up to there. So there are certain songs that you might learn with this where certain things you can't actually use the LEDs for, but if you're just learning like riffs or even guitar solos that are lower down, a good example of that might be, let's say, the Stairway to Heaven guitar solo, because I know that starts on the 5th fret. So let's find that one, and it should be overdriven guitar. There's the lick. So this will actually fit onto the right part of the fretboard. So that tab isn't the most reliable tab there. Obviously, we'd have to check out some of the other versions. You can see they're all rated, so we can see kind of what the better ones are there. Because that one doesn't have any techniques in there, but if you were learning the intro, for instance, that's going to show me all the chord shapes for the intro. If I then wanted to learn something with chords, I could go to, let's say, AC/DC, Back in Black. Some of these lessons actually have a Fret Zealot video attached to it as well from the course library. You can see their videos available at the bottom. If I play this one, this is going to show me more chord-based shapes on the fretboard. So as this plays, you'll see entire chords happening. So there's a huge array of different learning materials there. I really like that it shows you how to play certain songs. That's incredibly useful. The courses section, there's so much stuff to deep dive into. We're not going to spend too much time deep diving into it at this point, but we probably will look at some stuff in more videos in the future, and I'm going to show you some of my favorite courses. But yeah, as an overview, this thing does so much, and I really like this tool. I think this is a really great educational tool anyone that is learning the guitar. One of my favorite features in this is how you can use this from an improvising and a jamming point of view as well. So as you kind of develop on the guitar and you want to start improvising, you can use the scale maps to play with a backing track. And I think this is such a cool way to do this. So go back to tools. I'm going to do a E minor backing track. So we've got E minor, that's E minor pentatonic. I'm going to use E natural minor just because I like some of the extra notes there. So you can see now my fretboard has lit up in loads of different places. So every note you see here is in the key of E minor. So I've got 7 notes available. I've got all the notes of the key of E minor. So I'm going to play over a backing track now. And what you're going to see me doing is you're just going to see me following the lights. Every note that is lit up is a note that I can use. This is really useful because if you're learning to improvise and target notes over chord changes, you can actually learn where the intervals are here. So anytime you see a green light, that's my root. The blue lights are my second interval of the scale. The darker blue lights are my minor third. They're quite hard to distinguish between. Like for instance, that's my second and that's my minor third. There's not much difference in those colors, but they are there. The purple ones are my 4. The kind of pinky red color is my 5. The red is my flat 6 and the yellow is my flat 7. So you can see me kind of targeting different notes over different chord changes. So over a backing track, you'll just see me now following all those light changes. So that's an incredible feature because I can now see all the notes available to me as I jam, and I can kind of just follow them along. If I know the chords of the progression I'm playing with, I can kind of mirror the chord changes and all sorts of other cool things. So that is kind of an overview of all of the features of this thing. So just to recap, we've got the courses where there's a huge array of stuff. There's a bunch of amazing stuff in there. We've got different segments as well, as you can see. So we've got recommended for you, we've got advanced level stuff, we've got theory, we've got basics, we've got beginner, intermediate, player study, which is different guitar player styles. We've got Eddie Van Halen, we've got Kurt Cobain, Jimmy Page, B.B. King, tons. Pentatonic workouts, fingerpicking stuff, lead, chord, caged, improvisation, strumming, triads, modes, scales, intervals, syncopation, technique, picking, rhythm, notes. You get the idea, it's all in there. A library of thousands and thousands and thousands of songs, from A Flock of Seagulls all the way down to 88 Finger Louie. I mean, I'm not too familiar with his music, but his stuff is in there. That's how kind of deep this goes. There's a huge, huge library of songs. I mean, yeah, I could literally sit here for days and kind of scroll through what is on offer there. Then we've got the tools like I was showing you, where we've got chords, notes and scales, tuner, metronome, Lightshow, and there's some partner apps there as well that work with this setup. So yeah, that is Fret Zealot. What a great tool. I really like this. I think this is a fantastic learning aid, and I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time playing around with this and getting to grips with it myself as well. Like I said earlier, if you guys want to buy one of these yourself, there's a link down below in the description that you can hit. It'll take you over to their website. You you can use my link down there and that will get you a discount on one of these units. And like I said, I do get a small kickback from the brand for that, but that doesn't cost you anything. You're actually saving money doing it that way because my code gets it for you cheaper. This is a great way to learn. And I mean, to be honest with you, even if you're not a beginner player, if you're someone that's been playing a long time, this can still be useful because I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of stuff in this app that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be running over chords and scales and brushing up on things that I have kind of let slip by the wayside. But also, as a song learning kit, there's some brilliant things in there. I'm going to be using this all the time myself because I think this is such a cool product. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you think products like this are great for learning? Have you tried this yourself, or would you feel that a system like this would help you progress as a guitar player? I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to check out the Fret Zealot links, which are down there as well. If you enjoy this video, you can pick one of these up, like I said, and it will really help because I'm already finding in my brain I've got a list of things that I want to work on with this. So yeah, this is going to be a fun product to have in my collection. Thank you guys for watching as always. I look forward to speaking to you guys down below in the comments. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button. I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching.